We have the pleasure today of speaking with Sean Casterline. He is the CEO of Delta Capital Management here in Orlando, Florida, and has been a longtime customer of NuView, and we appreciate this time with him. Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate your time today. Just tell us a little bit about Delta Capital Management.
Well, Delta Capital Management is a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. We custody with Charles Schwab. The company's been around for about 18 years. Do traditional forms of business, mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, bonds. And also, obviously the reason we use NuView is we venture into the alternative space for clients. So, pretty traditional registered investment advisory business.
And how did your practice get involved with alternative assets and when?
We used to do alternative investments with a company I came out of college with. But if you remember back, the early 90s, it was all the coal REITs, the CRUPs, the public stuff from around the country. So that's really where I got my first taste of alts. Clients, like doing things that are different. They like the investments that are outside of the volatility of the stock market and potentially the bond market as well. So pretty early on when I came out of college, I got a pretty good dose of alternative investments. I liked what they brought to the portfolios, so.
And do you think it's going to be timely, especially with what's going on with the market now?
I do. And I think, again, you look at a market that's been running for years, post-COVID, we've seen some tremendous returns. And I think, the alt space has become more accessible, right? So it used to be, the playground for billionaires and hedge funds and private equity. Now when you see a beautiful multifamily complex opening up across the street, more than likely it's funded by individual investors. So I do think alts are going to become more and more important in everybody's asset allocation personally.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting more calls too. I think as the broader markets become more mature,
right.
Interest rates beginning to creep up a little bit,
yeah.
Certainly signs of inflation, folks are certainly more receptive and more open to other ideas.
I think so. Yeah, I would agree.
In terms of NuView and your work with us,
right.
Before you chose us, what were you looking for in a custodian?
I think for the most part, consistency. Being in the advisory business, I used to think, hey, to be successful in the advisory business, I had to be the greatest stock picker in the world, right? I mean, that's how you gauge success. And as I matured in the industry, what I realized and what I think most successful advisors realize is it's about the relationship. It's about the end client and being there for their needs and their goals. And so, that being the case, I think we're looking for a custodian, the same thing applied. I mean, you and I were talking about Jason a few minutes ago. Glenn, I've known for years, and I got introduced to those guys very early on in the process. So more than anything else, we were looking for a relationship because things don't always go great, right? So you want to have people to work with that you trust. So
probably nice to see too the kind of in tandem growth happening with both companies too.
Yeah.
As you guys mature, we're maturing and growing, and you've been a big part of that.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we've seen significant growth. I think watching NuView, they've improved their processes, they've improved their paperwork. I can't think of any clients that have complained about having a NuView IRA, and I eat my own cooking, so I've got my own IRA, and excited to grow with NuView and see what's in front of us.
What would you say to advisors or brokers who are not offering alternative assets?
I think you're missing the boat. I really do. I think when you look at the advisory world, there's a lot of plain vanilla RIAs out there, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to do it the traditional way, that's great. But I look at our investors and the reception that we get to alternatives, and they're very thankful. They're very thankful we did the due diligence. We went out and found that particular investment. We've done alternative investments for our clients in triple net Dollar General stores, Class A senior housing, Class A self-storage. And we typically strive for more defensive types of real estate because it's uncorrelated to what they're seeing in the stock and bond market. But again, I think when you're competing against some of the big boys out there, the Merrills of the world that have entire platforms of alternative investments, I think it makes an investment advisor stand out to be able to offer those types of alts. I really do. And we use it as a kind of a selling point or a feather in our cap to be able to do that.
What would you say to somebody who's considering NuView?
I think, I guess I would tell them why we use NuView, why we like NuView. Again, in the advisory business, your value is being in front of your client, right? It's their changing life, it's their changing landscape. And the fact is, as advisors, we don't want to be spending time having to, work through paperwork problems and solve issues with who's custodian for our alternative investments. And so, for us, I mean, it's just a seamless relationship. We don't have to worry about clients we send over to NuView. It's always, processed correctly. And that's the biggest thing for me. I want to focus on, what our drivers are and not necessarily on having to look over NuView's shoulder. We've never had to do that.